Ed Sullivan sat in the makeup room watching a monitor as Muhammad Ali walked through the backstage area of Studio 50, and something about Ali's expression made Ed's stomach drop. It was April 28, 1967, exactly 2 days before Ali was scheduled to report for his military induction, 2 days before he would refuse to be drafted into the Vietnam War and become the most controversial athlete in America. Ed had invited Ali to appear on his show tonight, thinking it would be a friendly sports interview, a chance to talk about boxing and upcoming fights. But the way Ali was walking, the set of his jaw, the intensity in his eyes, Ed suddenly understood that Ali hadn't come here to talk about boxing. He'd come here to make a statement. And Ed Sullivan, who had spent 20 years carefully avoiding taking positions on controversial political issues, was about to become part of the biggest political firestorm in sports history. Ed's producer appeared at his shoulder. "Ed, we have a problem. Ali's people just told me he wants to discuss the draft. He wants to explain on your show why he's refusing induction." Ed felt the blood drain from his face. "Tell him absolutely not. No discussion of the draft. No politics. Sports only. If he won't agree to that, we cancel the segment right now." Before we dive into this incredible story, hit that subscribe button because what you're about to witness is the moment when the greatest boxer in the world turned the Ed Sullivan Show into a platform for the most controversial act of resistance of the 1960s, and Ed Sullivan had to choose between censorship and history. To understand why Muhammad Ali's appearance was a crisis for Ed Sullivan, you need to understand what was happening to Ali in April 1967 and how completely it had divided America. Ali had been drafted into military service in early 1967. The Vietnam War was raging, casualties mounting, protests intensifying, and Ali, who had converted to Islam in 1964 and changed his name from Cassius Clay to Muhammad Ali, had immediately applied for conscientious objector status, claiming his religious beliefs as a Muslim prevented him from participating in any war. The Selective Service had denied his application. The decision had been swift and definitive. Ali was classified 1A, available for military service, and ordered to report for induction on April 28, 1967, at the Armed Forces Induction Center in Houston, Texas. And Ali had made it absolutely unambiguously clear to anyone who would listen that he would refuse induction when that day came. "I ain't got no quarrel with them Viet Cong," Ali had said in a press conference that became instantly famous. "No Viet Cong ever called me nigger. Why should I go thousands of miles from home to drop bombs and bullets on brown people while so-called Negro people in Louisville are treated like dogs?" The statement had made Ali a hero to the anti-war movement and the Black Power movement, and simultaneously made him a villain to everyone who supported the war, which in 1967 was still a significant majority of white America. Politicians called him a traitor and a coward. Veterans groups demanded he be imprisoned for the maximum sentence. Sports writers who had once praised his boxing genius now wrote columns saying he was destroying his legacy, that he would be remembered not as a great fighter but as someone who had betrayed his country in its time of need. And the boxing establishment, which had always been uncomfortable with Ali's outspokenness, was preparing to strip him of his heavyweight championship title the moment he refused induction. The World Boxing Association had already indicated they would immediately revoke his title. State athletic commissions were ready to ban him from fighting anywhere in the United States. Ed Sullivan had been aware of all this when he'd booked Ali for the show, but Ed had been assured by Ali's handlers, that Ali would stick to sports, talk about his training, talk about potential opponents, be the charismatic, entertaining Muhammad Ali that audiences loved, not the political Muhammad Ali that half of America hated. Now, 30 minutes before showtime, Ed's producer was telling him that Ali had other plans. Ed immediately called for Ali to come to his office. When Ali walked in, he was wearing a suit and tie, looking professional and calm. Not at all like someone planning to commit career suicide on national television. "Muhammad," Ed began, deliberately using Ali's Muslim name, even though many white Americans still called him Cassius Clay. "I'm hearing that you want to discuss the draft during your appearance tonight. That's not what we agreed to." Ali sat down and looked at Ed with those intense eyes that had stared down opponents in the ring. "Ed, I appreciate you having me on your show, but I can't come on here and talk about boxing like nothing else is happening. In 2 days, I have to choose between going to war or going to prison. That's all anyone wants to know about. That's all anyone cares about. If I don't address it, I'm lying to your audience." "You can address it somewhere else," Ed said. "At a press conference, in an interview with a news program. But my show is entertainment. It's not a platform for political protest. Ed, everything is political right now, Ali said. The war is political. Me being drafted is political. Me changing my name is political. You can't separate Muhammad Ali the boxer from Muhammad Ali the Muslim, from Muhammad Ali the black man who's being told to go kill people who never did anything to him. They're all the same person. Ed felt frustration rising. This was exactly what Joan Baez had said. What so many performers were saying now. That politics and art were inseparable. That entertainment couldn't pretend the world wasn't on fire. Muhammad, if you discuss the draft on my show, half my audience will be furious. Sponsors will complain. CBS will be under pressure. And you'll be giving prosecutors more evidence to use against you. Ali leaned forward. Ed, I'm going to prison no matter what I say on your show. That's already decided. The government wants to make an example of me. But before they do, I want to explain myself. I want to tell 50 million Americans why I'm doing this. Not because I'm a coward, not because I hate America, but because my conscience won't let me do anything else. Ed looked at this young man who was 25 years old and about to sacrifice everything for a principle. Muhammad, I can't let you do this. I'm canceling your segment. Ali stood up. Then I'll stand outside your studio and tell the press that Ed Sullivan wouldn't let Muhammad Ali explain why he's refusing the draft. And that'll be a bigger story than anything I would have said inside. Ed understood the trap. Cancel Ali and be accused of censorship. Let Ali speak and be accused of enabling draft dodging. There was no good option. If I let you on my show, you stick to boxing. You don't discuss the draft. You don't make political statements. You answer my questions, and you leave. Ali smiled slightly. Ed, you can ask me whatever questions you want, but I can't promise I'll only answer what you want me to answer. April 28, 1967, 8:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Ed Sullivan introduced Muhammad Ali with carefully neutral language. Ladies and gentlemen, the heavyweight champion of the world, Muhammad Ali. Ali walked onto the stage to mixed applause. About half the studio audience applauded enthusiastically. The other half sat in silence or crossed their arms. The division in the room perfectly reflected the division in America. Ed started with safe questions. Training regimen. Upcoming fights. Ali answered them professionally, giving the kind of answers that any athlete would give. But Ed could see Ali waiting, looking for an opening, ready to steer the conversation where he wanted it to go. Then someone in the studio audience shouted, "Are you going to refuse the draft?" It wasn't planned. Just an audience member who couldn't contain the question everyone wanted to ask. Ed's hand went to his earpiece, ready to hear the control booth tell him to cut to commercial. But Ali had already started answering, and cutting away now would only make it more obvious that Ed was trying to censor him. "Yes," Ali said simply, looking directly at the camera. "I am refusing to be inducted into the armed forces, and I want to explain why, because people deserve to understand." Ed tried to interrupt. "Muhammad, we're here to talk about boxing." But Ali kept talking, his voice clear and firm. "I'm refusing because my religion prohibits me from fighting in a war. I'm a Muslim. I'm a conscientious objector. I don't believe in killing people. The US government says that's not a good enough reason. They say I have to go anyway. But I can't. My conscience won't let me." The studio audience was completely silent, some angry, some moved, all listening. "I'm not afraid to go to war," Ali continued. "I fight for a living. I've been hit thousands of times. I'm not scared of physical danger. I'm scared of doing something I know is wrong. And killing people in Vietnam would be wrong for me. I can't do it, even if it costs me my title, even if it costs me my freedom." Ed's earpiece exploded with screaming from the control booth. "Cut to commercial. End the segment. Do something." But Ed didn't move, because Ali was saying something that needed to be said, even if it made everyone uncomfortable. This wasn't entertainment. This was a man explaining why he was about to go to prison. Ali finished his statement and looked at Ed. "I know you didn't want me to say that, Ed. And I'm sorry. But I had to." Ed, in a moment that surprised everyone including himself, said something honest. "Muhammad, I don't agree with what you're doing. I think refusing the draft is wrong. But I respect that you're willing to face the consequences of your convictions." The segment ended. Allah walked off stage, and Ed waited for the fallout he knew was coming. The CBS switchboard crashed within 10 minutes of Ali's statement, overwhelmed by the sheer volume of calls coming in simultaneously. The network received what would be calculated as the most angry letters in its history up to that point. Thousands of letters, many using language that couldn't be printed, demanding that Ed Sullivan be fired,
that Muhammad Ali be arrested immediately, but CBS apologized for giving a platform to what they called treason. Sponsors demanded emergency meetings with CBS executives. Several major advertisers threatened to pull all advertising not just from The Ed Sullivan Show but from CBS entirely if the network didn't issue a statement condemning Ali's position. The pressure was financial, immediate, and severe. Veterans groups organized protests outside CBS headquarters. Signs appeared. Ali is a traitor. The Ed Sullivan Show supports draft dodgers. Fire Ed Sullivan. The demonstrations lasted for days, covered by every news outlet in New York. But something else happened too that the angry letters and protests didn't capture. Young people, especially young black Americans, saw Muhammad Ali explain his position with dignity, clarity, and courage on the biggest stage in television, and they understood that this was what resistance looked like. This was what it meant to stand for something, even when standing cost you everything. Civil rights leaders, many of whom had been cautious about endorsing Ali's draft resistance because it was politically dangerous, began speaking out in his support. Martin Luther King Jr., who had his own complicated relationship with the Vietnam War and the anti-war movement, said publicly that Ali's willingness to sacrifice his career for his principles was an example of the highest form of courage. 2 days later, on April 28, 1967, Muhammad Ali walked into the Armed Forces Induction Center in Houston, Texas, and when his name was called his birth name, Cassius Marcellus Clay Jr., he refused to step forward. He was given multiple opportunities to change his mind. Each time he refused. "I cannot be involved in any armed conflict and I cannot support the war effort," Ali stated formally. The consequences were immediate and devastating. Within hours, Ali was stripped of his boxing title. The World Boxing Association, the World Boxing Council, every major boxing organization revoked his championship. State athletic commissions across the country banned him from fighting. He was indicted for draft evasion, facing 5 years in federal prison and a $10,000 fine. At age 25, at the peak of his athletic abilities, Muhammad Ali's boxing career appeared to be over. He couldn't fight. He couldn't earn a living. His passport was confiscated so he couldn't fight internationally. He was effectively imprisoned without bars, watching the prime years of his career disappear while he fought a legal battle that would take 4 years to resolve. Ed Sullivan never invited Muhammad Ali back on his show. But years later, in 1971, the Supreme Court overturned Ali's conviction. In 1974, Ali regained the heavyweight title. He became ultimately one of the most beloved figures in American history. And Ed Sullivan, in his final interviews before his death in 1974, was asked about the Ali appearance. "I tried to stop him from talking about the draft," Ed said. "I thought it would destroy him, and it did destroy him, for a few years. But then he came back stronger than ever, and I realized that letting him speak was the right thing to do. Not because I agreed with him. I didn't. But because some things matter more than keeping your show safe." If this story moved you, hit that subscribe button. Muhammad Ali came on the Ed Sullivan Show planning to explain why he was refusing the draft, and Ed Sullivan tried to stop him, but ultimately let him speak. Share your story in the comments below.